Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CoinNewsExtra interview session. So today we'll be talking about the impact of blockchain in this pandemic. We'll see what the pandemic have done to nations, people, individuals, and businesses. So we want to know what blockchain is really doing to cushion some of these effects. So joining us today is Jillian Godsil. Jillian Godsil is blockchain chair and also former European Parliament candidate. Jillian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Lee.
It's a pleasure to have you. So you know what the pandemic is doing, and we are looking for ways. We've seen what blockchain is doing to play a role in cushioning this the effect of COVID-19. So before we go straight to that, we would want to have a brief about you, Julia.
I misheard that you want to what, sorry?
Just a brief about you. Just tell us.
Brief about me. Beg your pardon. Sorry. Okay. I am a journalism broadcaster based in Ireland. For the last 3 years, before COVID, I've had an amazing time. I've been traveling the world, chairing and speaking at blockchain events and conferences all over the world. So I've been to Cape Town, Dubai, New York, Sri Lanka, Oman, you name it, all across Europe too as well. And it's been great fun and very inspiring because I love this industry for 3 reasons. I love the innovation. The innovation is huge. A lot of bright people working in this space. I love the fact that we are removing intermediaries like banks. That's something that's very, very dear to my heart. And finally, unlike the dot-com boom, where it was all about innovation, it was interesting, it was all about innovation, this particular sector, this movement, it is a movement, is all about making the world a better place. That's huge. That is massive. There's an underpinning desire to create a better world, and that's massive. And then going back to your first question, you were saying, like, during the pandemic, what can blockchain do? That's quite interesting because often in times of crises that innovation happens. So the Bitcoin was created in 2009 after the crash, and it was Satoshi Nakamoto or persons unknown said that this is what's happening here. The little guy is not being helped. This is a crash. The public purse is paying out the private banks. What is happening? And the little man was left to suffer. So when you get times of extremity, good things can come from disruptive things, because people puddle along and they don't, they go, oh, this is the way it's always been done. It'll always be this way. And then you have a big disruption and it forces people to rethink their lives, the way they do things. And so I think this pandemic, although it's been a horrendous pandemic and it's still not gone, far from not gone, it will produce good results. It'll disrupt the world.
Thank you very much. You've seen what it's doing, what the pandemic is doing. So what's the role of blockchain and other emerging tech playing in cushioning the effect of pandemic in the society, most especially during this COVID-19?
It's that disruption thing. So what's happening at the moment, if your viewers are watching the crypto world, it's gone crazy again. Bitcoin is gone, its flight to quality. Bitcoin's gone up in value. Well, it's gone down the last week or so, but it's been touching 12,000, it's down to 10, I think, today. But what's also happening is DeFi is exploding. Now, DeFi is decentralized finance. At the moment, it's very much in its infancy. There are huge hypes, but what it means is that DeFi, it takes out the middlemen and it decentralizes finance. So people with a smartphone can invest in a product with a view to making money or earning interest. Now, because it's unregulated at the moment, it's very scary. So I do not advise your listeners or watchers to put any money in that they cannot afford to lose, obviously. But it'll move on. And what it's doing, it's democratizing access to finance for ordinary people, and that's exciting.
That's exciting. So if it's not led on, that's what we say in the crypto space. You do your due diligence. So you make your own research on anything you want to venture into. So, Jillian, we are looking at how you've been able to state you're in love with the ecosystem. So, we want to know, how did you venture into the blockchain space, and how have you played a very vital role in advancing the space?
Okay, I can say I answer the second part first. I definitely have, because I'm a journalist on the world stage, and I have a voice and I use it. I'm one of the top 100 people so named in blockchain, and I use it to talk about why this is such an amazing technology, how it democratizes access to many, many things: finance, education, identity. It is just, and it makes people rethink, because we're not in a very good place in this world at the moment, and there's so much inequality. So it's wonderful for that. And I use my stage to do that. How did I get involved in it? Because I personally went through the crash in 2008 here in Ireland. I suffered divorce and recession at the same time. Everything was taken from me. My ex went back to the UK. He became bankrupt in the UK, but he gave all the debt to myself and our 2 children. So I had a big house, a big debt. I tried to sell the house, and I made a video to sell it, kind of a quirky video, and it went viral. It went totally viral. I was in the Huffington Post, I was in Al Jazeera, I was in Belgian TV, BBC. I kind of epitomized what was happening in the crash of the Celtic Tiger here in Ireland. And I got a cash offer for someone to buy my house for 500,000 euros. But the banks refused consent for me to sell because it wasn't the same. The mortgage was 800,000 euros. And so they preferred to repossess my home. And then they sold it for 165,000 the following year. At this stage, I've had bailiffs, my divorce is all collapsing around me, everything's gone wrong. And I'm going, what is happening here? What just happened there? Why is my life being torn apart? And I realized that the banks were spinning this narrative. And in Ireland, I don't know about how it was in Africa, but in Ireland, financial failure was seen as a shameful thing. And the banks have this narrative that, financial failure, people were gaming the system, used terms like, debt forgiveness and moral hazard. And I'm going, excuse me, to fail financially is very, very painful. But it's not a criminal offense. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't steal anybody. I just failed financially. And then when the banks took my home, I was left with the debt because in Ireland you can't hand back the key. So I still had the debt. So I was forced into bankruptcy. I was the first female bankrupt under the new laws here in Ireland. And then I realized that I wasn't allowed run for public office because as a bankrupt, I was seen as inferior, not a good citizen. So I was furious because I'm now going, people who fail financially, it's not a crime. I didn't steal from anybody. I tried very hard and I didn't make it. So I brought the Irish government to the High Court and then to the Supreme Court. And I argued that my constitutional rights were being infringed. And I changed the law. And that's when I ran in the European parliamentary elections in 2014. Now, I didn't get elected, but I got 11,500 votes, which was great for someone with no money and very little time and no party. I was an independent. But what it proved to me was, I'm such a slow burner, but it proved to me that there was so much injustice in this world. I mean, how can I fix this? This is so wrong. We know at Davos every year, Oxfam does its world report and it says that 1% of the world owns 80% of the wealth. That is so wrong. And I was tired of capitalism 1.0, which meant it was all a zero-sum game. So for me to succeed, I've got to take it from you. I'm going, what happened there? What happened to old-fashioned capitalism? Nothing wrong with making money, but be good to your employees, be good to your staff, be good to your customers, make good product, do good in your neighborhood. It's not all about the bottom line. So when I discovered blockchain, I went, Mama, I've come home. I can see how it's the disruption and the democratization of access to so many things. And I never realized how much privilege I had until I went through all this. And still, I found it so hard to recover. And at the end of the day, I want my children to do well, but I want your children to do well. And I want my neighbors' children. It's not the zero. We can all do well. And I point to the fact that we have enough feed. For world hunger, we have enough food to feed the world. But we don't. People still die of starvation. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy in this day when we should be able to make sure everybody is fed. So blockchain to me is my own personal horrible experience. Made me very, like when I saw blockchain, I went, this is where I'm going. And I'm so happy to be here. And as I said at the start, I have a voice. I use that voice because I want to use this wonderful transformational technology to improve the world. I want that on my tombstone. She did her best.
Yeah, interesting. I understand your story. Blockchain is playing a role in fighting corruption and other sort of things that are happening in the society. And it's also helping people financially to grow buoyantly when it comes to finance. So, Jillian, lastly, what's your closing remark?
Well, I love blockchain. That's it. What else can I say?
Yeah, interesting. I love blockchain too. Thank you very much, Jillian Godsil, for joining us today on CoinNewsExtra.
Thank you indeed for having me.
Yes.